What I did spend a lot of money on is not Spy Hunter. No, I spent a lot of money on Arcade1up OutRun, the cabinet for Arcade1up, the sit-down version, which it's like an IKEA build. I did the Star Wars one earlier, except this one is a little bit different. It actually came with a bench and stuff, and I've got the instructions up here. But really, I know that you guys, that y'all here, don't want to see the me hold up instructions and just talk about it, and so I decided we'll actually show it as well. And for the folks on the podcast, this will actually be on the YouTube channel as well. So hello, YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit about Arcade1up, the OutRun cabinet. It's not a full build that I'm going to be doing here because there are plenty of other people that are way better at building these cabinets and quicker at it than I am, and they live streamed their build, so you can watch it. So this is more kind of just highlights and stuff. But so I already have the Star Wars cabinet, and so I was going to put this in the same area right next to it. It is a very, very heavy box. It's 102 pounds is how much this weighs. And it came last week, and the reason it weighs that much is because of the bench. It's got a leather seat, which, by the way, I did check, and it is weight rated, because nobody else really talks about this because they're not like me and care about the weight rating. But it's weight rated for 290 pounds. So if you're worried about it, and it's very stable, the bench in there. If you want to make it more stable, you can absolutely add some more to the underside of it. Like I said, this is kind of an IKEA-like build. And you can also replace it with like a gaming, like a racing seat or a gaming chair, which is really a racing seat. So you could do either of those things with this. You can modify it because, like I said, it's an IKEA build. It's basically an IKEA build. And Podculture says it's 12 pounds more than Star Wars. I would say that it's that because the Star Wars cabinet had the riser, and so that's take out the riser. This doesn't have the actual riser, and put in a bench, and that's why it's about 12 pounds more. So yeah. So on the video, I am pulling everything out. That box says Fragile. It must be from Italy. And I'm just pulling out all the different boxes and stuff. Unlike the Star Wars one, there is no box in here that's purposely left empty. So it is really packed full. And it was packed really well. I'm going to say there is a blemish, and at the end of the video, you'll actually see the one blemish that's on the cabinet that happened probably in packing or moving or stuff like that. So it took me way too long to put this thing together. I know that other people have built these in like an hour or so. It took me about 2 hours to really get the bench portion together, which is really just like 6 pieces. It shouldn't have taken me that long. But I'm also not used to doing IKEA-type builds like this. And also my stereo blindness that I've talked about on the show doesn't really help when you're trying to get screws in with a screwdriver. It makes it a little more challenging, but I was able to get it. But basically, there's a piece of wood that you put down on top of the structure that you're building the bench on. And then you screw the leather seat in from the bottom, and that's how it secures, and it fits in really well. So, like I said on this, it is a weight rated for 290 pounds, and when I did sit in it, once I got it in, it was sturdy, and I am not over 290 pounds, but as you can probably see in the video if you're watching on YouTube or here on Twitch, I'm not small. So I'm not small at all, but I'm not 290 pounds, and I felt stable and sturdy. I didn't feel like I was going to break anything. There was no creaking of anything. So I was surprised with the quality of the seat. I understand that it does take a lot of wear and tear from some other YouTubers. but I sat in it just fine. If you have the Star Wars bench, it is a little bit lower. It sits a little bit lower. So I fast forward in the video because I've already shown putting together a Arcade1up cabinet, and really most of this is the same. But it's got the control deck has a steering wheel that is not force feedback, but it does reset to the center. It has the gear shifter, which resets back to the center, but it only goes up and down. It does have a turbo button. It's got a start button, and then it's got 3 buttons for the music, which is only in one of the 4 games. Now, when you put it together, the instructions actually recommend you hook up the control deck, which is what the steering wheel is on, to the main unit before you put it in. I didn't do that. I really should have. But then you take the pedals and you run them up. They're like a 3¼ inch jack. And then the pedals kind of slide into the bottom. It actually goes underneath a portion of the cabinet and then kind of hooks in. The pedals themselves remind me of early Rock Band cabinets. So they're fine, but if they will probably break in the exact same way that that Rock Band bass drum pedals will. You're definitely not going to want to wear shoes while you're playing it. You're definitely going to want to be wearing socks when you're playing these. So, this is right here. You're going to actually hear the audio come up. This is the first time I turned it on. I crossed my fingers, hoped that everything turned on, and then there we go. There's the intro. So that's main part of the build there. So you can hear that you use the steering wheel to change games and stuff. So there's 4 games on here, and the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to turn down the volume on this for a little bit. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go into the settings, and this is because difficulty is set to normal. So I set it to easy, and also the Scanlines are on for each game, and you may not want that. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm going in and turning every single game into Bobby Blackwolf mode, and that's what we're showing here is me going through and turning everything to easy. It still doesn't make it super easy for me, but it makes it a little bit easier than it would have been. But the way that the pedals hook up, because it didn't kind of went by in the video pretty quickly, is that it's a 3/4 inch jack that hooks up, and so if you get a standard Arcade1up riser, you can still run the pedals down there, and so you can have a stand-up version of this, and you just get the generic riser. The bench is not the same as the bench for Star Wars. This bench, I think, sits a little bit lower, so you're not actually hitting with your knees. So now in the video, I'm going in and playing OutRun for the first time. Or actually, this is not the first time. I did record the first time, but you get to pick the music, and of course, Magical Sound Shower is really the only option, right? I know there's other options here. But it is an analog pedal. So you can, and there's it's a digital shifter. But the pedals are both analog, so if you if you floor it, you're going to have a hard time, so you're definitely not going to want to floor it when you're coming out the first time. So, but other than the fact that they've changed the emblem on the car because they don't have the Ferrari logo, they don't have the Ferrari license like they did back in the 80s, it is the same game. It is the same arcade ROM. It is not modified from that. And it plays really well. It's been a long time since I've played OutRun on a real steering wheel and with real pedals, and so it's a lot different than playing on like an Xbox controller inside Yakuza or something, which is the only other time you'd ever get to play it, or like a Sega Ages version. So, Dark Tatia says the car that he's seeing on the screen here is the same one that's on the Sega Ages version for Switch. Breakman says, wrecking was the fun part of this game. Oh, that happens. I got very lucky when I was filming this and did not wreck. But yes, you can absolutely wreck. And I wrecked many times and hit the game over here. So one of the things I'm going to show right here in this next part, and like I said on the podcast feed, this is going to be on YouTube. Actually, I will say it is actually kind of hard to put your name in and only go like one letter across with the steering wheel. So that's going to take some time getting used to trying to put my name in on here. Obviously, what I just recorded was not my best playthrough because of these. I recorded this a couple times from several different angles. So what I'm doing here is I'm turning the scan lines on just so you can see what it looks like with the scan lines. This is the default, and this might actually help in some of the games if you really want it. So they do actually have the scanline version, so it kind of looks more like a regular CRT, even though this is an LCD screen. Questbus says, all this cab needs is the smell of pizza and french fries hovering around it to simulate the arcade smell. Well, I do have it, like I've got a popcorn maker in my basement and stuff. So this is Turbo OutRun is the next one. Is that the one I'm doing? Yes, this is Turbo OutRun. I didn't pay attention to see which one I hit next. But this one also has the actual turbo button. And the nice thing about this also is this version has continues, so you can actually continue playing. And one of the things I'm showing in the video also is I put a further back. I'm actually kind of comfortable now playing it because I was worried because I am about 5'7", so I'm not the tallest person in the world. I'm more wide than tall. And I'm not that uncomfortable playing the game. So, like, I mean, I do sometimes, like, rest my elbow on my leg when I'm, running the shifter, especially in the games that have a 5-speed. But I'm not very uncomfortable playing the game, and that's because I have the bench almost all the way farther out, and it is it is low enough that I am in a comfortable position. You can obviously mod the cabinet, put in a little mini riser so it sits up a little bit higher. You can absolutely do that. Like I said, this is an IKEA build. You can do whatever you want with the cabinet. And I also know people have actually put in a force feedback wheel, like a Logitech force feedback wheel, into the game. And so you can actually change all that. I love here that I lost the game right at the checkpoint. I did not make it across the checkpoint. I crashed, but you can actually continue at the beginning of that stage in this game. So eventually, I could possibly make it to the end of this game with enough continues, which would have cost me 50 cents each time before then. So I'm just letting it play out. Sorry on the podcast, folks. And Pot Culture says he's putting up his quarter up for next. Yes, people who want to come over and play it are still going to have to pay me a quarter. You're still going to have to pay me a quarter. You just wouldn't put it in the arcade. And every time you crash, you pay me another quarter. That's how it works. So I almost got to Chicago on that run with my one continue. Breakman says there are worse things than to be stuck in Pittsburgh, which is where I was stuck in. But I can't think of any. I'm sure there are. So now we're moving over to OutRunners. And this one's funny because it says start and it shows the ignition key. There's no ignition key. But this is the game that uses the music change buttons. And it also has the 5-speed transmission, which you're going to see in the bottom right-hand corner. Something that if you remember the arcade version of the game, I believe this is the one that didn't have that originally. And there's actually a feature that they added to some of the games that had like an actual shifter that stayed in one place, because the version in this cabinet resets to center every time. So it's basically up and down. It's a digital up, a digital down, and that's it. So this one actually has 5 speeds, so you're going up and down, and it's actually showing on the bottom right-hand corner which gear I'm in. And I believe this is the game that's hilarious when you crash, that they run back to the car. I believe that's this one. I think one of the other cars, they jump up and they like fly through the air and then they land back in the car. So crashing isn't as bad in this one, but it is just as hilarious because you don't really lose that much time. The other nice thing about this in terms of the difficulty setting, here we go. They're running and coming back in. And this is great. In this video, what you're going to see is you're like, oh, I'm out of time, but it doesn't stop you. And I hit the checkpoint right at the very end. That's MLG Pro right there. First try every time. But the nice thing about this is in the settings, they also have time difficulty for each stage. So I actually then, after I filmed all this, I tried that. And basically you can add or subtract 5 seconds from each checkpoint or from the beginning to help give you a little bit more time. Still doesn't make it super easy, but you actually have that option, and you can even set it per stage. So you can say, I want 5 extra seconds on the first stage, but not on the second stage, or anything like that. So as I get better at this and start learning, there's a brake pedal. I didn't touch the brake pedal in this video at all, which is probably why I'm not doing too well. But if you learn that, you got to learn how to go slow to go fast. Once you learn that, and it's a little bit easier on, when you're actually using a real pedal and stuff. So the last game on here is called Power Drift. It's not called OutRun, and this is actually more of a 3-lap race against other people. So this is a lot different than OutRun, which is basically point-to-point checkpoints. This is you're trying to get top 3 in a race with other drivers, with I think 11 other drivers. I think there's 12 drivers. And it's no items, so this isn't Mario Kart, but this is this first stage is a figure 8 that I'm playing. It also has a gear shifter in the bottom left-hand corner. And I am actually going to show you in this game how this works and what they've done. They did not edit the ROM. They've done an overlay. So what I'm talking about is on the bottom left corner of the screen right now, you'll see gear LH. And the H is highlighted because I'm currently in high gear. On the original Power Drift cabinet, the gear actually stayed up or down. It did not return to the center like it does on this cabinet. And so you could actually, when you're playing this, not know what gear you're in. So there's an overlay that sits on top of the emulation that the team that worked on the software for this put in. And look at that. I got first place. Y'all see that? I got first place. Stage 2 doesn't go as well. But they actually put an overlay that says what gear it is, but it still looks 16-bit. It looks like it fits in. If you didn't know any better, you would have thought it was part of it. But you can turn it off if you really want that authentic feeling. And I believe OutRunners, it's either OutRunners or Turbo OutRun, one of the other two, they also add the gear shift on the screen, and you can turn it off. And I'll show you what it looks like in this video. ActF says Bobby Pro Racer confirmed. And SJ Onomat says Power Drift always got an eye strain from this one. Maybe this is the one where the Scanlines would maybe help, but it is very busy for a 16-bit game, it seems. So maybe this is the one you're going to want to turn the Scanlines on to make it a little bit better. But it does kind of shift left to right as you're turning. But here I am. So there's a show gear indicator. You turn that off. And then when you're in the game, notice in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to zoom in, that there's no gear indicator. So that's actually what it looks like on the right when the gear indicator is on. So they've made it look like it's part of the game, but it's actually not in the ROM. They're actually doing that on the outside. On top of, it's basically an overlay over the emulated ROM. So this is the one blemish. There's this little crack on the inside. It's on one of the side panels. You can really see it from the inside, but unfortunately it does mean that there's this crack on the left side of my the cabinet. So that's the one blemish. But it's got the lighted marquee at the top, which looks pretty cool. And there were no problems with that. It actually has the OutRun map for the first game. And it's a flat surface, so you can like even stick your phone on it. I wouldn't say stick a drink, but it is flat. So you can actually put your phone on this, and it's got the little map of OutRun. Like I said, there's the gear shifter, a steering wheel that goes back to the center. It's weighted to the center. It's not force feedback. And then on the bottom, it's got an open area for your feet, but also it lists the games on the bottom. And so that is the OutRun cabinet, and it comes with the one I've got is the sit-down version, and it comes with the stool, the leather-seated stool, much like the Star Wars one, except it is a little bit different. So if you have the Star Wars one, you can't use it on this. And no, Spy Hunter is not on the cabinet. Now, I will say that Arcade1up liked a tweet that was responded to me that said I like Spy Hunter. So the Arcade1up Twitter official Twitter account thinks that they also like Spy Hunter, but this is not Spy Hunter. Podculture asks, is there a stand-up option? So they are coming up with a stand-up version of this cabinet because this cabinet's actually sold out. You could only get this version from the Arcade1up website. It's sold out. So it just came for me this week, but it sold out when it went online about a month or so ago. But they are going to be releasing both this and the stand-up version to stores, which the stand-up version, I am guessing, is going to be just like this cabinet with a riser, and then you just snake the pedals down. And I could turn this version into a stand-up cabinet by just buying the generic Arcade1up riser, putting it on top of it, and snaking the foot pedals down to the bottom. So that's I am enjoying it. I'm actually probably playing it more than the Star Wars one because there's 4 games on it instead of just the 3. And really, the Star Wars one, you don't want to play Return of the Jedi. You're really only going to play Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back on that one. But I have more fun with the OutRun one. So I am pleased with it. Yes, there was that one blemish because of the packing process. I'm okay with it. I'm not looking for pristine in my arcade cabinets, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. My wife loves OutRun, so she was playing it earlier today, and I do recommend it if you have the $500 to spend on it. And you want a driving cabinet and you like OutRun and you realize it's OutRun and not Spy Hunter, I think it's worth it if you have that kind of money and you have that kind of space. I understand this is 2020. Things are a little bit different financially for a lot of people right now. I am very fortunate in my situation, which is why I'm able to get it. Arcade1up did not send it to me for free. I sent them money and they sent me a cabinet in return. I really enjoyed it. It was, in terms of the build time for me, because I am not as adept at it, it took me about 2 hours to build that little bench, which is more trying to just get the screws in the right place and figuring out exactly how they wanted the seat to get in there. So it took me about 2 hours total. And then it took me another 3 hours to actually build the OutRun cabinet itself. And that's because I had done it before. I think the Star Wars cabinet took me 4 hours all told. And it is kind of the same, which is why I didn't really film it. It's kind of if you've done an Arcade1up cabinet, you know how things kind of put together. The hardest part for that is when you're trying to attach the screen to the second side of the cabinet, because it's got these little white right angle pieces that take 4 screws each, and there's 4 of them. Getting them on one side when you're putting it into one side of the cabinet is easy. Then it's when you put the other side on and you're trying to line them up. That's the hardest part for me. That actually took me about an hour, and it was kind of frustrating. But I think if you are more used to IKEA furniture, and actually from what a lot of people tell me is that the instructions that they give you are a lot better than IKEA furniture instructions. They actually spell out a little bit more for you. If you're used to IKEA furniture, you'll probably have a pretty easy time with this. This is IKEA with a couple of electronics and ribbon cables and stuff. There is a USB-C port on the back of the screen, which is where the main computer is back there. And so that's apparently for a future Easter egg. I don't know what it's used for. Nobody knows what it's used for yet. And also, there is a fan. They have added a fan to the computer because this is I guess this is the most processor intensive Arcade1up they've done. So you can actually hear that fan running. So it's a lot. It makes a little bit more noise than the Star Wars cabinet. The Star Wars cabinet did not have a fan on its processor. This one actually does.